Oh. That means that it started.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Clark and Friends. I'm here this week for episode
No.
4.
It's not the Clark and Friends.
Okay, welcome to the Hen and Friends podcast. I'm your friend Hen. I'm joined this week
This is
by
identity
Clark.
theft.
Say hi, Clark.
This is identity
Say
theft.
hi, Clark.
Stop.
Thank you, Clark. Say hi, TD.
Don't respond to
I'm
him.
TD,
Don't let him do this.
and my existence
don't
has not
do it.
changed. I need to let people know that my name is still TD, and I still am in the same ethereal plane of existence as I was 2 weeks ago. It's crucial information.
I'm going to start the intro again. Welcome to this visual, mostly audio because it's a podcast, experience. I am your host, Hen, and my friends for today are...
I'm TD, and I still am on the same plane of existence as I was 2 weeks ago. That has not changed.
Who is the other person in the call, or the virtual room, if you will? Who is the other person?
I'm Clark.
Is that a question?
I'm still here, and I'm still stuck on this bloody island.
Same.
We're all stuck on islands.
Different ones, actually. Wow, I never thought about that.
Everything is an island. A continent is just an island, but big.
We're not getting meta here, TD.
Yeah, you could argue that an island. You could have, well, like for example, there are people that say that Australia is the biggest island in the world, but then people will respond, "Oh no, it's actually a continent."
I think Eurasia is the biggest island on the planet.
Afro-Eurasia, actually, because Africa's connected.
No, it's not. The Suez Canal exists.
Yeah, but that's imperialism and doesn't count.
Well, yeah, but it did make Africa an island between Africa and Eurasia.
You win this.
So what I'm hearing is that
you win this time.
Africa had being an island imposed on it.
Yep. And I think that is a great way to describe what colonialism did.
It imposed things on people that did not want those things being imposed upon them.
Yeah.
Much like how TD has imposed himself on New Zealand, and they don't want him.
Yes, and much like how you imposed yourself upon the intro and superseded me.
There was a void.
Actually, I would argue that New Zealand does want me, because they approved my visa.
Have you asked each and every person in New Zealand if they want you there? No. So don't make generalizations.
What are these absolutist statements? I'm so disappointed in you.
Yeah, I'm so disappointed in you too, Clark. I think this is your last. I think this is your last. I think this is the last episode that you'll be appearing on due to your sweeping absolutist statements.
Yeah, he's the one colonising Wales.
Yeah,
I'm not colonising Wales because I'm leaving soon. In like a month and a half.
So that makes the colonisation okay.
Well,
yeah. So the entirety of British colonisation
they eventually left, guys.
Was okay,
it's fine
because they left. Yeah.
If you let me speak instead of just silencing me because you can't deal with alternative opinions, I'm actually half Welsh, so therefore it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, we're dealing with a free thinker here. Deal with it.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't realise. Oh. And that leads us into our first topic of the day. What are the Sonic characters politically on the political compass?
I think that
don't tread on me. That's a rather libertarian thing to say. Wouldn't you agree?
I think that didn't lead us into the podcast.
I don't think it did either.
I think that wasn't a very natural way of, leading us in at all.
You're not allowed to host. And that's why TD's not allowed to host.
The co-hosts and the hosts in this call have had some heated conversations prior to recording. So I think it's best that we all relax. Think about the topic that we're going into, and just be neat and chill, and we'll think about what we're going to go into. Now,
your mum.
I knew that was coming. I fully knew that was coming.
Is Shadow the Hedgehog an anarcho-communist?
Yes.
I think Shadow's just edgy for edge's sake. He likes guns.
So, the principal question here is, where do the Sonic characters align on the political compass? Now, I did some thinking about this very topic, and sort of the first, thing that came to my mind was that Knuckles is a libertarian because he just wants to guard his emerald. He doesn't want government oversight in doing that, and he's pro marijuana legalization. That's pretty libertarian to me, and he's pro emerald liberalization too.
What about his the fact he likes to fight? Does that change anything?
Yes, he wants the freedom to fight.
Okay. And what about his rapping skill?
He wants the freedom.
Does that change anything?
The freedom to rap.
I see.
The freedom to Fortnite. I think that's what we're all getting into,
The freedom to go to Pumpkin Hill and to rap about
the freedom
how
to
great
not let it get to you.
Pumpkin Hill.
And the freedom for a ghost trying to approach you and getting leery.
Yeah.
I feel like it plays into the ideology perfectly.
Yeah, but his opinion on Rouge, isn't he somewhat misogynist to her?
No, I think he respects women.
Okay.
But if he was misogynist, he would appreciate the freedom to be misogynist.
Okay. But he does. Because it's been a while since I studied the Sonic games. I just like Knuckles.
He's not misogynist. He's
okay.
He's not very interested in women because he's more interested in the Master Emerald.
Is he a free speech absolutist? Would he thrive on X?
I don't think
because he actually has a life.
I don't think he knows what X is.
Yeah, okay. He touches grass. He likes the freedom to touch grass
as well.
Yeah, he likes the freedom to touch grass and smoke it, and make someone's arse grass. Think about it like that.
Okay.
Dr. Eggman.
Well, Knuckles.
Dr. Eggman, though.
Knuckles is my spirit animal. You could say why not Echidna?
Is your spirit enchilada?
Yep, he's my spirit Echidna.
Dr. Eggman.
Yeah.
Dr. Eggman, though.
Well, Dr. Eggman's a cuck.
Robot fascist.
Cuck.
Robo-fascist.
I think in the Sonic comics, it's actually like a thing where he, basically, and I think it's in one of the old cartoons as well. But he basically roboticizes people, so he turns them into robots.
So he's
that's not very choice.
Yeah, he's
like the Cyberman.
Essentially, yeah, it's aggressively culturally assimilationist policies.
Okay. And the fact that he's into being a cuck, isn't that very right wing as well?
What makes you think that he's into being a cuck?
Well, because his wife sleeps with everyone.
Yeah, famously.
And his wife is even urinated on by Shadow the Hedgehog.
So does that well, there are right-wing figures that have been known to be cucks.
Yeah.
Like Sneeko.
Is that the guy? Is that the guy who Charlie Penguin Zero was beefing with a year back?
Maybe. He's kind of
the watch my clips guy.
Maybe he's the kind of like he basically. I watched a very interesting video recently about Sneako's whole fall off, I guess, and he kind of like he used to make just very interesting videos, and they were like highly edited, and he would have like a very sort of nuanced perspective on things, but then he kind of started going down the whole red pill manosphere type thing and became very unhinged and went on about how he watched his girlfriend get fucked by another man. So it's like proper, it's proper cuck behaviour.
Yeah. He also likes the movie Cuties, and he was the guy who beefed with Penguin Zero.
Okay.
Shout out Google.
Well, he unironically likes the movie Cuties.
Yeah. Isn't that the weird, borderline? I'm not sure if the borderline nonce will go with that movie.
We don't want to talk about. We don't want to talk about what country it comes from.
Well, I just don't want to get censored by YouTube, so that's why we're using the word nonce, because I don't think YouTube like cuts your video if you use nonce. But I know words that dance around and have the synonymic meanings to the word nonce. It will like age restrict or whatever your video. So we're using the word nonce.
I mean, I wondered if that was only the case if you monetized it. No.
No, they like throwing age restrictions out at the moment.
Well, like it's fortunate that so far, I've not had that issue.
Yeah, because
so if Knuckles is a libertarian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Sonic is I think Sonic's a liberal.
I think Sonic runs too fast.
I think he's a lib because he'd be the kind of guy that's like, yeah, racism, that's no good. I think he's that's no good. Like, if you're like racist, that's what I think.
Yeah, but Sonic for equal rights.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Knuckles just wants to chill on his island. Sonic wants equal rights.
What about Amy?
Amy
simps for Sonic.
Yeah, she's crazy.
I think she's gonna. I think she's like Emily Acab. I think she's like.
Hang on.
I think she's like posting. I think she's posting black squares.
I think so. I think she is taking like Pepsi cans to the protesters.
Yeah.
I think she's like, I remember that advert.
I think she's a complete like, yeah. I think she's the woke agenda.
See, I would disagree with you. I would say that she holds every single opinion that Sonic does, in an attempt to be noticed by Sonic.
Do you not think that she has a slight? I think she might be slightly anti-feminism though, and that she's so obsessed with Sonic that she idealizes.
Oh, what? So she could be. So you're saying she could be a trad wife?
I'm saying she's down bad.
I think she's Meghan Trainor. Who that's not the first time Meghan Trainor has managed to come up somehow.
Enemy of the cast.
Public enemy number one, Meghan Trainor.
Right. Okay. Well,
put it this way: she listens to Dear Future Husband.
Okay. So we've got Amy. Tails.
Well,
centrist. He stands for nothing.
We've got
multiple
positions for Amy. No, the Tails is too young.
No, I am now attached to Amy being a trad wife.
Yeah.
Tails is too young.
No,
Tails
he's a
like
centrist.
A child,
he has no opinions. He's a bitch boy.
Yeah,
no opinion.
Because he's a child. Not that any of the Sonic characters I think should vote.
Eggman should vote.
Wow. He doesn't think that animals should get the right to vote.
Yeah.
They live in a kingdom, don't they?
We live in a kingdom. We get votes.
The problem is, TD, you are relying on the idea that the Sonic canon is consistent. It really isn't very consistent at all.
Look, you explained the plot of Sonic 06 to me in 2018.
And
that stuck with me.
But that kingdom in that game is only a thing in that game.
No, it's the most influential piece of Sonic media.
It's
ever
also
to
like it's
and
also
they
a kingdom.
Only confine it to that game.
It's also a kingdom in the Archie comics as well, but that's very separate from the
Archie comics.
The Archie comics were like a very long running Sonic the Hedgehog comics, and they're quite notable because they kind of had like one canon.
Okay.
Whereas the games,
why are they called Archie comics?
Because
dare I ask?
Because they were done by a company called Archie Comics.
Okay.
Like a comic company, like Marvel, DC. Again, I don't know anything about comics, so I can't.
Okay.
I can't speak on it with a lot of knowledge, but.
So have we agreed that Shadow is a anarcho-communist?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rouge is pro. Rouge is pro sex work.
Shadow is pro gun rights as well.
Oh, what you think he's like? You think he's MAGA?
No, he just whatever his political opinions are, he's also pro gun.
Maybe he's MAGA.
I can't see
MAGA.
him.
I think the Soviet Union always had a very positive relationship with guns.
Oh, true. But maybe
But they were used like not in the same way in America. It's not like you could have, they weren't like the Soviet Union wasn't exactly very sympathetic to the idea of property rights, which is sort of the whole idea in America, right?
Well, I mean, does Shadow own any of his guns?
We don't know that.
Or does he just
in the game Shadow the Hedgehog, he just sort of finds them on the floor.
Yeah,
exactly. That's
which is communist. Yeah, collective ownership of the guns.
So
he picks them up when he needs them.
You're saying he's Comrade Shadow.
Yeah.
Comrade Shadow.
And
Silver the Hedgehog.
I hated that.
Silver the Hedgehog just a sub.
They're just a sub, yeah.
I like how does Silver the Hedgehog have they them pronouns now? You just said they.
Is it established?
I think it would make sense.
Blaze.
But they have verticals.
Blaze is like a dummy mummy.
to Silver.
Yeah. So I think Blaze is an authoritarian.
Yeah.
She is
Blaze
this discussion is beyond my mental fortitude.
Blaze is a matriarch. Blaze would. I think Blaze would like. She's like a. I feel like she's a Tumblr feminist.
Yes, but then I feel like
she's a bit hashtag kill all men.
So you got Blaze is the dom for Silver, who's the sub. Who else are you missing? Vector just wants to grow.
He's from Despicable Me.
Yeah, he just wants Gru.
The crocodile.
Oh,
crocodile.
the
gold chains.
Team Chaotix.
Mad detectives.
Oh yeah, because you've got the chameleon and the bee as well.
Espio and Charmy. I can't believe you don't know these characters, and that yet you talk about the Sonic franchise like you're an authority.
I literally just know Knuckles. Okay. No, right, I know Knuckles. He's like my homeboy.
So we got Vector. What's the remind me of the name of the robot again?
Omega.
Okay, yeah, Omega, but what about Chameleon? Chameleon guy. What's our opinion on?
He's canonically a ninja, so I think he supports Japanese politics.
He's a revisionist.
Yeah, he's.
What about the bee? I mean, bees are like also in like a colony ruled over by a queen.
Yeah, so he's a monarchist.
Yeah, they live in a monarchy, but it's also kind of like it's the queen, and then kind of like a socialist.
I think he's an anarcho monarch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything is sort of equal unless you're the queen.
Yeah. Every man a king.
You just roboted there.
Well, I am Omega.
Okay. Oh, he's the robot. Yeah. Hang on. Did we settle on a position for the crocodile, Vector?
Vector just wants to grill. He's a centrist.
Well, he's got gold chains though, so I feel like he's got some bling.
Oh yeah, maybe he's a
He's a bit of a cap.
Maybe he's on the grind.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Okay, so he's in the middle, but on the right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could understand that.
Okay, fair. Omega. Although he's a robot, do robots get to have political opinions?
Who are you to say that they can't vote? So,
do you think this could be a ethical debate? Maybe we could have in human society in the future. Who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, because if he's been programmed to vote a specific way, then it's just going to be his programming, not his thoughts. If he has thoughts.
He does read.
Have we got a window into like future political debates? It's like, oh yeah, the Democrats programmed all these robots to vote for Biden.
No, they rigged the election.
Yeah,
they got the robots to vote. Oh,
yeah, they got the robots to vote for Mecha Bernie, guys.
Oh God.
I think this is politics in 2093.
Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Won by a landslide. and it's Marmala, not Kamala.
Marmala. Well,
we need it to be Marmala Harris right now.
Really? Makes sense.
Yeah.
At that point, I think I just.
Have you not seen that clip?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I'll send it to you to watch later. It's a whole thing.
Is it? Wakanda forever.
She was. Wakanda forever.
Wakanda forever.
She was on Drew Barrymore's show, right? And Drew Barrymore said to her, "We need you to be Marmala of the country right now."
Did she accept being Marmala of the country?
I think she did.
Ooh, nice.
Marmala.
Hamana.
So who we missed that I'm thinking of? What's the name of the ones from Sonic Riders?
Jet.
Jet.
Wave. Storm.
Oh, the bird people. Yeah. The bird people.
Yeah, Jet, Wave, and Storm.
I feel like they'd vote as a block.
I almost think that they'd have their own party, like a special interest group.
What the pro racing party? They don't care about anything else.
They Babylon,
just want more racing.
There would be the sort of Babylon Rogue party, I think.
Oh yeah, what about Adam Sandler from the dub, whatever his name was?
Adam Sandler.
The genie, who's. Hey guys, it's me, Adam Sandler, and here's my script to my next film. The genie, Adam Sandler. I'm calling him Adam Sandler.
Is this in the Sonic Riders stuff?
Yeah.
It's been a while. I know what you mean. He's like the final boss of the fucking game.
Yeah. He's in like the Sky Island.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
From
he's Adam Sandler.
Yeah, I've not seen the dub
and he's a genie. And his name's Adam Sandler.
We're getting off the scope of like major Sonic characters here. Metal Sonic.
We haven't placed Metal Sonic.
He's not in any of the dubs, and we're considering him a major character?
He is a major character.
Okay.
Well, hang on. is your only reference of canon the Snapcube fan dub? That's the
I think that's
and Knuckles' mixtape. And Knuckles' mixtape.
So this is the issue. If that's your only experience with the Sonic the Hedgehog canon, that's a narrow frame of reference, is it not?
Well, excuse me.
As a lifelong Sonic fan who's played every single game, that's a narrow frame of reference.
As an avowed adorer of the Sonic.
Yeah, as a avowed fan, I think.
See,
it's narrow perspective, no?
Okay, what about the devil?
Doom. Black Doom, you mean?
Yeah, the devil.
No, Black Doom. He's not the devil. He's called Black Doom.
Look,
that sounds
the
like
line.
A name.
I am the devil from the Bible, and it's cute that you think you can defeat me with a power and friendship and all, but I am the devil. I love that line.
Find the Chaos Emeralds. It's more like that.
Where would Chaos be?
Chaos, he just wants to absorb emeralds, bro.
Yeah, but so where's Black Doom?
Because
he's the devil, is he like in
I think he's a homo nationalist.
No, hang on. Wasn't he like invading the planet? So isn't he like the alien party?
I feel like he's an alien fascist party.
Yeah. He's like pro. Who knows how his political system works? You know.
Maybe he's just in his own. Maybe he doesn't exist on the spectrum. Maybe he just does his own thing.
Yeah, no, he's in the Z-axis of the political compass.
Is he like a single issue person?
Yeah, single issue of taking over the planet.
So he could be part of George Galloway. He could be part of George Galloway's party. Then he could be part of the Workers' Party.
Oh, so how would George Galloway help him in his quest of world domination?
Well, surely while dominating the world, he could sort out contentious issues in the Middle East by devouring them.
Yeah, but I think so. Is that a bit of a zero-state solution?
Yeah.
Mentality.
Well, hang on. Let me just propose this as the solution to all world problems. There are no human political problems if no humans exist. So
how can there be conflict in the Middle East if there is no Middle East? I think
that sounds like TD's arguing for a genocide right there.
I mean,
please,
all I'm saying is if we take every human and get in a spaceship and blast off from the planet, then Earth has no more political problems. I don't know where all of us are going to go, but Earth wouldn't have any political problems. The spaceship would. There you go. I've fixed the Earth's political.
I feel like that's a great place. That's a great stopgap of this discussion.
Yeah, and I've fixed it. I've fixed the entire planet.
So you've already solved all the world's problems. Do you know what?
I've solved all the world's problems.
Do you know what? You can pat yourself on the back for that.
Yep. I'm being very specific. I fixed all the world's problems. I haven't fixed all humanity's problems. Just to clarify.
I don't know if TD you would like to go into your random topic, or we can have the other topic.
No, my random topic. I think it leads into the topic afterwards. Personally.
Oh, okay. Well, the other thing I've got. I mean, the thing is, I'm not sure. The only other thing I've got is like Kendrick versus Drake, but.
Well, I would say that's actually a conflict really that's comparable to a lot of the conflict going on around the world right now.
What, Kendrick versus Drake? So why don't we get into
Where
that?
would Knuckles fit on the Kendrick versus Drake? Do you think Knuckles would rap alongside Kendrick?
Oh my god, it's so funny. It's so funny you should say that, because there's like this video on YouTube that's like an animation of like Kendrick like punching Drake, and it's got like Knuckles in it.
But is Knuckles helping Kendrick?
He's helping Kendrick. Yeah, he's like laughing at Drake.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's the argument sorted.
Yeah.
Done.
But my question to you is that as the leak has shown, Drake be packing. Is Knuckles hung?
Why did you have to go there?
Look,
why did you have to go there?
Drake got a BBL. Drake's physical appearance doesn't factor in because whatever
there's
he
a reason
has,
why he's as prolific as he is.
Has TD seen the leak?
No, I deliberately avoid celebrity nude leaks. I deliberately avoid them because it's gross. I don't want to see some celebrities' nudes.
Well,
it's disrespectful.
Normally, TD, I'd agree with you, but in this instance, you're missing out.
it was, yeah. But haven't answered my question.
It was eye-opening.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it.
What was your question?
Knuckles gives big dick energy.
Well, echidnas have like 4 penises.
Yeah. Who's the most hung in the Sonic universe? Let's have that Knuckles. As our next week's debate.
No, they have like they have 4-headed penises, genuinely. So I think Knuckles, because it's like
Knuckles.
He's already winning by like a factor of 4.
But Eggman does have a moon-sized dick.
Yeah, but it looks like 2 balls and a bong.
No, he's got a space colony arc-sized dick.
That's what I mean. Like, he's got like a big ass. Like, that thing could do some damage.
Are we talking about Kendrick versus Drake, or are we talking about this now? What are we talking about?
This is the segue segment.
This is the segue. Okay, carry on with what you were saying.
No, we had the connecting thing. We had Knuckles rapping. See, I was real clever with that.
Yeah, I thought that made a lot of sense.
Yeah. Who can't segue now? Who can't segue now, bitch?
You, because you've got no fucking balance.
What does that mean? What do you mean by balance?
On a
segue. Yeah. What do you?
A segue, like with the wheels.
Oh, ha ha ha! So funny. Lol.
Wow.
My talents are wasted.
Yeah, we are. We are mere plebeians.
For unfamiliar listeners, I do in fact have a sense of balance. He was just being funny. Yeah.
He was being mega lol.
Yeah.
Anyway,
wow.
Kendrick versus Drake.
I'm going to take the lead. I'm going to take the lead here.
Yeah.
So I think, obviously, it's pretty obvious that Kendrick came out on top of Drake.
I didn't realise it was a sex thing.
Well,
if you'd seen the leak, you'd understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you'd seen the leak, it would make sense.
I was setting you guys up.
Because I mean, the whole thing did sort of devolve into a lot of slinging of allegations and things that aren't public knowledge. But at very least, I think Drake did a good job at Kendrick did a good job at putting Drake in his place regarding things that actually are public knowledge. That was my sort of view on it. Have you heard all of the? Have you heard all of the tracks, TD?
You know I have.
I didn't. I didn't think that you hadn't. Like on Meet the Grahams, that was just a complete dive into shit that was public knowledge and that we all knew about. And
apart from the second daughter, that was apparently
that was the only thing. But the shit with his parents and the shit with his son, well, that had already been gone. That had already been gone into before. So
yeah. I don't think Kendrick won as much as Pusha did in 2018.
No, I agree. He didn't come out with no scars. He didn't come out with no wounds after that.
But because Push
you can
just
go on.
Wiped the floor with Drake back in 18. But I feel if Push hadn't wiped the floor back in 2018, it would have been a lot easier for Kendrick to wipe the floor with him now. But I don't think it's gonna really impact Drake too much in the long scheme of things. Because if it was going to, then he would have taken the L in 2018. It was just that devastating.
Well, they're quite serious allegations that Kendrick leveled against Drake.
Yeah, but I feel like the average person isn't gonna care.
That he operates a paedophile sex ring.
Well, not unless evidence is actually brought out.
Right, and this is part of the right, and I think this is part of the problem with this beef. It's a lot of shit that's like not substantiated. I think the both of them sunk quite low, in my view, and that was like my main issue with a lot of it. I think Kendrick won in terms of making the better songs with the better disses, but on both sides there was a lot of, you know, going into shit that they couldn't substantiate, and it's kind of like, well, where do you take that?
Yeah, like I think Kendrick's things are like even if they're just exaggerations, there's clear evidence, even in Drake's own like lyrics of his own songs, that he could have been more intelligent with not making like comments about girls on the younger side of the age spectrum.
Well, Kendrick. Yeah. Well, Drake said that Kendrick was fed like false information, so I don't know what you want to take from that.
Well, yeah, but there's a literal video of him saying, "Oh, you're 17, but how come you're sexy as fuck?" And it's like,
yeah, or something that like with what he did with an underage fan at a concert or something.
Yeah.
It was that. I'm talking about.
Yeah, and now, admittedly, that was a long time ago, but still, it's like 17 and 23 is a gross age gap. I mean, we're coming up on 23 ourselves.
Right, it's just if one is under 18, it's gross. That is what it is, right?
Yeah. Like it's icky at very least. Even if it is legal, like it is in various states, like it's icky.
Yeah. I don't think the 6-year age gap is what's gross about it. I think it's just the fact that she was under 18.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I think if it was anything, it's like especially just from a public figure, it's just poor behaviour. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, like I'll reiterate, I think that there were accusations, you know, levelled from both sides. In terms of the songs, I think Kendrick came out on top quite easily, but he's not unscratched by a lot of the things that Drake alleged against him. And with a lot of the things that he was talking about on Mr. Morale, about him being very sort of imperfect, him basically admitting to have cheated, I don't know, it raises some eyebrows about Kendrick's personal life. It wouldn't surprise me if there's lots of shit that the public don't know about.
But the thing is with these sort of things, that they always open sort of Pandora's box for both the person that is on the receiving end of the diss, but also the person that's like,
right, and
giving the diss. Is that the right terminology? I don't know, but like,
dissing.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah, and it sort of brings into the whole thing of like, are celebrities, like, are they supposed to have completely moral personal lives? Like,
I think that's something that no human can. No human can completely say that they've acted morally and conscionably 100% of the time. It's a impossibility.
But celebrities are expected, like, if they expect like the public support, they are expected to overall behave in certain ways, you know, in terms of things that are public knowledge. That's why the whole, I guess, the cancel culture became a thing, because it's like, oh, this person with a high profile has not behaved how they should, you know.
But I think going into celebrity culture, it is toxic. No doubt about it. Like the stands and the worship. Kendrick said it himself on a song from Mr. Morale, "Savior," of you know,
Kendrick something, but he is not your savior.
But he is not your savior.
Yeah.
Cole made you feel empowered, but he is
not your savior. Yeah, exactly.
Future said, "Go get the money counter," but he is not your savior. It's like he's telling his fans, like, enjoy my music, but I am not like it's saying, please worship everything I do.
Right,
and
I've never like
everyone else.
I've never understood like celebrity worship. There's these people that if they see their, celebrity idols, they just like, they're like, oh my god, or they're like, they fucking hyperventilate or whatever. Like, I don't really understand that.
Yeah. Like, it's fun to enjoy someone's music and to be part of a community that likes that person's music. But worshipping another human being that much because they make good music or they write good books or make YouTube videos or what, like,
do anything,
whatever they do, it's like, you're your own person, live your own life,
and I guess everyone's ultimately imperfect, although I mean,
yeah,
I suppose there's more nuance to it than that. It's like, obviously if someone does something really bad, I could understand not wanting to support their art. But then it gets into the debate of artist versus art and all of that kind of stuff.
I mean, I personally have removed Kanye West from my playlists and my whatever. Because, I mean, 2022... Was it 2022?
2022 was when it... 2022 was when it started.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't want my money going to this person anymore. Like, I don't want to support them and their beliefs. I think they are morally abhorrent, and I will just cut their music out, because giving them my money, support, time, whatever, like, I'm not, their music isn't like going to make me evolve into a like meta human or whatever. It's music at the end of the day.
I think I thought about this recently, and I think the conclusion that I've come to is it's honestly up to the end user, it's up to the consumer to decide whether is this bad thing that this person's done, is the art worth it? If the art is worth it, and you can deal with the fact that you're supporting someone that, may have done something unsavory or have unsavory views, and I think that's on you. That's your decision to make. That's my view on the situation. And I think that should be the consumer's choice.
Like, sorry, random aside, but have you remembered to put your Discord on Do Not Disturb?
No shit. But it hasn't. But I haven't heard it go off, so thank God.
Okay, right. Do that now.
I was literally in the process, Ben, of just typing out to you. Then I think your phone went off, or was it TD's?
My phone's on silent, so it's.
I heard a ding.
Oh, that was my phone, like in the background. That's fine though.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah. Okay.
So
swaggy.
So do you, TD? So on your point about Kanye, do you still listen to things like Michael Jackson tracks? Because I feel like it's more of a grey area where it's sort of like contested as to whether those allegations are true to the extent that they're made out to be, or true at all.
Now I never really listened to Michael Jackson in the first place. But would I, if I was a massive Michael Jackson fan, would I still listen?
Hypothetically.
Well,
I think in that case, I'm not super sure on the allegations, or I need to do more research into that, because with Kanye I did like.
Do you mind if I
didn't need to research it.
TD, you can say what you want to say. I might actually just go turn off put Do Not Disturb on my phone, because it is going off in the background. Just give me a second.
Okay. Welcome to TD's Ben turns his phone off break monologue. Right. So yeah, I personally would need to do more research into those allegations because with Kanye, it like jumped out right in my face. I follow lots of rap Instagram things. I'm like very much part of like the discourse with that kind of stuff. Well, I wouldn't say I'm part. I watch the discourse. There you go. Mm-hmm. And it just jumped out at me, and I was like, "Oh my god, what on earth is this man doing? Get out of my playlist!" With
go
on. With Michael Jackson, because I'm not watching that as much. I'm vaguely aware of potential Nazi behavior. Was that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But the other things, the allegations are as of now unconfirmed.
Yeah.
And also, Homeboy is dead. My money, time, and energy is not going towards an alive person actively hurting other people. They are dead. And I think that is a very easy, maybe too simplistic boundary for me to draw. But it's like, if I buy H.P. Lovecraft books, do I support his awful views, even of the time they were like whatever? No, clearly not. I'm interested in the stories he wrote and the world building and Cthulhu and all that kind of stuff. If he was still alive, yeah, hi. If he was still alive, I would very much not be buying his books. But as of right now, he's dead. I don't think that's a fact that's going to change anytime soon.
Who are you talking about?
H.P. Lovecraft.
All I know is what he named his cat.
Yes, and that's part of it.
That's part of the. Wasn't he like very racist or something?
Yeah, even of the time, but like I'm still comfortable with buying his books now because he's very much dead. And the money and my time is not going towards an alive person causing more harm.
Don't look up what he named his cat.
Yeah, Homeboy was
definitely don't look it up.
Homeboy was really not there.
That ain't it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can give you another point about Michael Jackson. I mean,
yeah.
As to whether the most serious, from what I understand, as to whether the most serious criminal allegations are true, it's quite hard to know. But he definitely did things that were not necessarily illegal, but very inappropriate. Like, it's pretty proven that he openly said that he would, like, I don't know, sleep in the same bed as, like, children that were unrelated to him. And stuff like that.
Okay.
It's not technically... like, it's not illegal, but it's not good behaviour.
It's a bit weird.
It's very weird.
Yeah, I have no idea about that.
I think as for the as for the actual molestation allegations, it's not as simple. I'm not educated on the subject though. I really don't know.
Yeah,
but,
I feel
the contents was kind of not really the thrust of my question. It was more the fact that TD said that about the point about Kanye, how when he was aware of what Kanye's behavior was, that he wasn't going to support that through not listening to Kanye's music. I was wondering whether that same sort of way of thinking would then be applied to other cases, or if it was just like a one-off because he was familiar with the allegations.
Well, with Kanye, it's not allegations. He very much went out. It's not one-off. It's like when Blizzard had the whole sexual harassment stuff. I completely dropped all Blizzard games for a good while. And I think when Microsoft was like, we're buying them out, did I rejoin the Blizzard games because I was like, okay, it's going to be under Microsoft. Microsoft will not tolerate that kind of stuff.
Look, I think it's up to the end user. Like, is that art, like, you weigh up how much the art means to you and how good the art is versus, the problems with the artist, and you as the consumer weigh up whether it's worth it for you. That's what I think.
Yeah,
it's honestly up to you. That's my view.
No one,
for example,
no one should be forced to listen to someone that they don't like type stuff.
For example, I enjoy black metal music, and there are plenty of black metal musicians that are out and proud white nationalists. The riffs go hard though, I won't lie. It's like, so it's hard, like it's a difficult one.
Yeah.
The irony.
Yeah. It's very...
It's called...
The irony of what?
Well, the name of the genre of music and then their views.
Yes. Well, they're like... Because the scene sort of started in Norway, there's a lot of very sort of anti-Christian type of stuff. And that also leads into also anti-other religious groups. And I think you can see where this is going.
Oh.
Yeah.
Icky.
Obviously, not every band is like this, but there is some problematic history there, and there's also some dodgy folk in the scene. Let's say it's not my favorite subgenre for a reason, I guess.
No, I think if I for some reason suddenly got into black metal, I would be very strict with my vetting process. But I don't think it's a genre of music that I am likely to stumble across. Because while I do say, oh yeah, I'll listen to just about anything, like I have my things that I'll gravitate to. Because while I might listen to anything, I won't play.
Well, look,
that makes sense.
I think as a fan of extreme music and like. When we talk about extreme music in general, the thing is a lot of people who are into extreme music don't seem to understand why your average person doesn't appreciate it. But I don't see it like that. It's more like, well, it's supposed to be extreme. It's supposed to not be like something that's accessible to the mainstream. That's the whole point, right?
By extreme music, we're talking about music... Are we talking about like very experimental music and very in some ways difficult to listen to music?
I mean, I'm specifically talking about like very 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 heavy subgenres of metal, so like death metal and black metal, for example.
Okay, yeah.
Like they're supposed to be like not something accessible to the mainstream. That's kind of the idea. So I can understand it's not everyone's cup of tea.
Okay.
It's the whole point of the genre.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe we've also got everything we can out of that topic as well.
Yeah.
Do you want to...
I think we're also some of the latest people to go into that topic. Like, it's not... I've seen reports that Kendrick's still working on some songs, but unless he's going to Story of Adidon Part 2, I feel it's quieting down.
Yeah, I get that impression.
Yeah.
Oh well, we can only speculate.
Yeah.
Do you want... So you said that... So TD, you said that your surprise topic kind of neatly goes into the one after.
I wouldn't say it neatly, but I'd say there are some definite parallels based off what I know about the topic after.
Yeah.
So TD's surprise topic of the week. The media. It controls or it doesn't control an awful lot, but it's what the media focuses on is generally what people care about, rather than like it being the other way around. At least in my experience, or that's my hypothesis I'm presenting, I'm guessing. Like, because certain things aren't a big issue until the media decides that they do become a big issue. Like, and my examples of this would be like the Howard Dean scream. Like, no one really gave two pence about that kind of thing until the media was like, "That's unpresidential. Why does he care? Like, why does he do that?"
When he was like, "And we're gonna go to the White House." Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
like
Ed
Miliband.
That is one of the moments of all time. It's quite funny.
Ed Miliband eating a sandwich in British politics. Like, no one was gonna care about that until the media did.
I think another really good example is like Princess Diana.
Yeah,
and the media,
royal family.
Yeah, the media like crucifixion of her, basically, and also I think the royal family is another really good example of that.
Yeah, like, because the media very much, I feel the media very much controls what the general narrative is. Even now, even with the waning power of traditional media, they still, like, it still trickles down to like new media, and then the new media covers it. And there, do you guys have any thoughts on that? Because it's in my mind the past week or two, especially with the next topic, because I feel we'll get to the next topic when we get to the next topic. But yeah,
I've got. Well, do you want to start, Chris?
Yeah, well, I feel like it's kind of like a vicious circle where people will express an interest in, let's say, Diana. So the media then focuses on her, which then makes more interest in her. So the media focuses more on her. And it goes round and round and round in that loop.
Okay, so it's positive reinforcement.
Basically, well, it's the way that media now works is it's not done for free. You know, it's designed to get people to watch it or to buy the newspaper or whatever the medium is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be what people are interested in, so they'll actually buy the thing or watch the ads.
Yeah, I mean,
but there's
so then it naturally reinforces. Oh, this is what people are interested in, so let's just keep focusing on that. So it's
Okay.
It functions as a business. I mean, private media, it functions as a business. It wants to give people the stories that specific audience is interested in, so it gets watch time and clicks or whatever.
That doesn't mean that's always the case. Because the BBC does not fall under that category, because the BBC is funded regardless.
But it still has but it still has an independent it still is.
Yeah, but what I mean is the incentive for the newswing of the BBC to chase stories is not to get clicks for revenue purposes. Well, at least it shouldn't be, but that is likely the way that it is structured, because otherwise there is no reason that they behave the way they did with Diana, because there's no financial gain for them.
Yeah. Well, I think though for a media company, having there is public accountability with free media. Like, I think the average public values the integrity of the media, and the media are telling the truth, and the media are saying, the right things. Like, I think when a lot of people talk about the mainstream media as if it's all propaganda or whatever, it's like, it's quite a reductive way of looking at it, because if as a mainstream media platform you say something that's blatantly not true to control the narrative or whatever, then you're going to lose confidence from the public, and that's against your bottom line, that's against your profit incentive.
But that's what we are saying. The public is trusting the media as a whole less and less, and as with the polarization, they're finding media that their views and what they want to hear. That was the entire reason why what was the stupid British Fox News wannabe that
GB News
floundered and kind of died? Yeah, was funded because they were like, oh, people want news that they want to hear, and like I think with Rupert Murdoch, he's enemy of the cast number 2, especially like with Australia being next to me now, but even before in the UK, like listening to Australia and how the Murdoch press has monopoly on them, like, and it because I mean, Chris, you said you were interested in Australian politics. Isn't it the case where like both the Murdoch press and the other main press broadcaster, 9 Fairfax, both generally support the Liberal Party, which is the Australian Conservative Party?
Well, the case is in Australia though is that they don't. I don't know if do they have like is ABC set up similarly?
ABC is it's set up similarly to the BBC, but the government of the day holds more control over it.
Right. Because the way that I view those sorts of things is that as long as there is a supposedly neutral by law news organization, so in the UK it's the BBC, regardless of your views, that is what it's supposed to, whether it actually is. It's set up in the way that it is supposed to be just a neutral body.
It's set up to be impartial and informed. Yeah, that's the idea.
The way I view these things is that as long as that exists in a country, if there's alternative news sources, I don't really mind, because at that point you have an option. If you don't want to watch the right-wing take on something, you can watch the neutral version.
And if there's there'll be a market for it, you know, like if there's a market for it, I don't see the problem with it. I mean, the problem is now, though, I think, the thing is, though, because mainstream media is as big as it is, and it is so, you know, these institutions are as big as they are, you know, mainstream media is held to certain standards, right? There are standards of reporting, like there are, you know, fact checks and lots of things that this media has to go through in order to be broadcast. Whereas with a lot of alternative media, that's not the case. They can spew whatever the hell they like. And
look at Alex Jones's InfoWars.
Exactly, and obviously, while I think we can agree that we're all better off that the internet has kind of changed that, where it's like corporations don't have the monopoly on information anymore. You know, it's certainly an issue that I think that a lot of us are contending with now, is that people can just spew whatever the hell they like. And, you know, why do you think social media companies put the independent fact-checking things and whatever? It's like, you can spew whatever the hell you like now, and you've got an audience.
But do you not think that is a downside of... Well, I think that is quite a significant issue that there isn't really a solution for, which is, in the 70s and the 80s, you had your 3 main channels on the TV, right? And you'd have one of them would have like the news that you would watch at 6 o'clock or whatever, of like Walter Cronkite or whatever. And that was the accepted view of the day, because it was put forward as just, these are the day's events, and that's it. Mm-hmm. There was no spin, there was no talking heads giving an analysis and an opinion on it. It was just, these are the events. And it was an easier time then, because everybody was on the same page. You could have an opinion on what was being told to you, but everyone's on the same page as to, in regards to the information they're receiving. Nowadays, the information someone can receive about an event can vary wildly between if you've got it from Fox News versus if you've got it from like ABC in America. Well, those two news channels can be reporting on the same event and give you a wildly different story depending on your position. I think that's the issue, is that now there is no fixed consensus of this is what happened and these are my opinion on it. It's now given as an opinion. I
think with alternative media this is even worse.
Exactly, because now
like there's no standards it can be held to. It's even I think it's even bigger problem with that.
Yeah, and it's inherently political what people decide to cover, looping back to my original thing, because some things covered in some media outlets are just completely silent in others. So if you only go to one media outlet to get your media, you won't be getting all the things that have happened that are important. Because
yes, and this episode of the Hen and Friends podcast is sponsored by Ground News. Not really.
But
not
what I would. But what
really.
I would say.
Oh, is that the one with the blind spot thing?
Yeah, it's the aggregator. Yeah.
Yeah, sponsor us.
Please give us money.
But
I like money.
Is that the way that you're phrasing this is kind of emblematic of the issue? Is that it's gone from being this is the news to this is media. This is designed not to tell you of today's events, but as something you want to consume as I don't know what the right word here to use, but like it's not designed to tell you the news. It's designed to entertain you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that's the issue really driving this, is that the news has become a source of entertainment as opposed to a source of getting information.
I think there's not a whole lot you can do about that, because these things are ultimately driven by what people want to see. But if a media outlet like straight up lies, then your average consumer isn't going to accept that. That's a hit to their reputation. It's not like they can just say what they like to spin whatever narrative they want. At least in a country with free and independent media like the UK.
Yeah,
or the
but
US.
if you throw enough misinformation out there, then the truth becomes quite difficult to find.
Well, no, because I think it's more like, especially with the internet, people can find out that quite easily if a news outlet isn't saying the truth about something. I don't agree with that. I think information is more accessible than it's ever been.
Yeah, but if you keep on like throwing misinformation out and then or just reframing it in a way that makes your misinformation seem slightly more credible, it becomes a cloud of bullshit that you have to cut through in an attempt to find what real information is. And then you've got like people who are blind, who worship the person who's put out the misinformation and be like, no, you've got the fake news, you've got the wrong facts.
Well, there should be.
People have always existed.
What did you say?
People believed. Those kinds of people with a conspiratorial mindset have always existed. I don't think you're ever going to win them over. They are drawn to the idea that the mainstream narrative is hiding stuff from them. People used to.
But now they've got a platform.
I mean, my problem with the conspiracy theory is like, how could these things be kept from people now? It's like with all of the information that we've got, how could some grand conspiracy of shadow government or whatever, like how could no one in the world have found out about that? That's my problem with it. It's like, it's impossible to me.
That's because the chemtrails are keeping you subdued.
It's possible.
I mean,
it's plausible.
There is still secret information out there. We don't know everything about this thing.
I'm not saying that we don't know everything.
The Secret Service exists for a reason.
I'm not saying we don't know everything, but I mean the real grand ones of like shadow governments and all of that, and like all of the oh yeah, there's actually someone above Russia and Ukraine. They're just like being made to fight each other to like distract from the real issue.
Yeah, George Soros is controlling the
exactly.
Him and Klaus Schwab.
Like shit like that. It's like how could this be hid from everyone on the planet? It's impossible to me.
I would disagree. I'd say it's possible. It's implausible.
I think
like the amount of people, TD, that would know about this and about to keep stum is ridiculous.
There's no way. It's impossible to me. How everyone wants to have everyone wants to be the whistleblower and be as critical as the next person, and I think that how could there be no evidence as to these things? It's impossible to me. That's why I've never been convinced by anything like this.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I very much do not think that is the case. But based off like intelligence and stuff like that, is there like people behind certain states who do prefer to remain in the shadows? Possibly. Like, I'm not talking about the ones that we know a lot about, but like some of the like smaller dictatorships, there are probably oligarchs or people who prefer to remain clouded. I'm not talking about a deep state world government. The lizard people, the queen. Oh no, she's dead. The lizard people are the king, stuff. But I think,
yeah, I mean, in authoritarian systems of government where there's a lot that's not public knowledge, I think, yeah, it's possible. There's a lot of actors involved in the government that no one knows about. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think in a democratic country that would be difficult to hide, but
I think even in a democratic country, there's the lobbyists and lots of dark money where we don't know exactly where it's come from. So there are.
But when you say when you say lobbyist, what do you mean?
People who lobby the government to make certain policy decisions.
And you say like you're saying this. There's something. I think they can lobby like I think in I know in the US at least you can lobby specific politicians, but there are a lot of regulations on that.
Yeah, but the people who give them money and give like think tanks money, like there's a lot of dark money involved.
But they still don't. But they still don't decide who gets elected.
No, they don't decide who gets elected, but money talks.
But I don't like it when people make the argument of, oh yeah, like democracy is pointless because the lobbyists control our democracy. It's like, I don't, they can donate money to politicians however they want. It doesn't mean that people are going to vote for them.
True, but I mean, like, Russia had influence on the 2016 United States election, and like that. Like the fact that Russia could do that is scary, and I think there are other state actors out there who could also do that.
I mean, I don't know what. Like, honestly, I'm not sure what the Russian influence in the US election even was, if I have to be honest.
Like throwing loads of dirt at Hillary and her campaign. Lots of Twitter robots, although there is questions on how effective those are. Welcome to today's politics lecture that I just attended.
Well, to be honest though, it's true, like politics is ultimately an information war, and there's lots of different actors throwing different types of information around to try and influence the public. I can't deny that. But you know what? The fact is like I think people ultimately value, free and fair media, and where a media institution, comes across as inauthentic, I think people aren't stupid. I think I'm a bit of a defender of the mainstream media for that reason, because they're held to standards for a reason, in my view. I mean, meanwhile, though, in a authoritarian country, like you think the Chinese state media will be given specific things from the government that's allowed to say and not allowed to say. You cannot, or the Russian state media or whatever. Like there will be certain things that they are allowed to not say. The BBC theoretically could say whatever it liked.
I mean, I don't think you're gonna tune into the BBC and they're going to be swearing.
No, because they know that that's something that, you know, most of their consumer base wouldn't appreciate.
Actually, no, they couldn't swear before 9 p.m. or whatever the rule is.
The watershed, yeah, I think it's 9 o'clock in the UK. I'm not sure.
But in the UK, there are specific rules that say that if you're having a debate, let's say watching Sky News at 8 o'clock, and they're having like a discussion about the day's events, you have to have guests on that give a balanced viewpoint or a range of views. So you can't just have, let's say, you're discussing the latest budget and you've only got a Tory MP on. You can't do that. You have to have a Labour MP on as well to give a balanced argument in the debate without the moderator's opinion.
And that's like actual legislation?
Yes, so that's what GB News keeps getting done for, is they're not necessarily giving that balanced debate at all times. Because you have to have a range. In the UK, you can't give a viewpoint. It has to be a range of viewpoints. If you're
this is another thing. You're having like another example of how. Sorry, did I interrupt you there?
That's okay.
Okay, but another example of how like people value the commitment to the truth, and people value the integrity of mainstream media institutions. Look what happened to Tucker Carlson. You know, he got caught red-handed lying, so they dropped him. You know.
Yeah, but he interviewed Putin or something.
Yeah, through his own alternative media though. But I'm saying is like mainstream media has a reputation to uphold.
Mm-hmm.
And
even Murdoch.
And even Murdoch. He can't stay as wealthy as he is without, having some reputation to uphold. That is the benefit of mainstream media that alternative media, doesn't provide. Is you can go on and say whatever the fuck you like. It's part of the problem, right?
Yeah.
Any more thoughts?
Well, so yeah, the reason I'm thinking of moving into the next one, because the reason I think that these two tie together, topic-wise, is so the next topic being the pro-Palestine encampments.
Mm-hmm.
I think the media has focused a lot more on, for a week or so, it focused a lot more on the pro-Palestine encampments in the United States than what was actually going on in Palestine, which I found very interesting, because why is the media choosing to do this? I could not give less of a fuck about these encampments, and while I don't focus too much of my time at the moment on Israel-Palestine, because it is just that depressing. Like, the fact that they were focusing on the encampments over the actual situation itself, I found interesting. Like,
well, I think because the encampments were like a emerging and new thing compared to, the conflict that's been going on for months now. I mean, to be honest, I think people tire of hearing about conflict in the media. You think you saw this with Ukraine. There's not a ton of news about Ukraine anymore, because it's like people tire of hearing stories about how a conflict is still going on. I think it's a new thing. It's exciting. That's why I think
it's exciting. It's closer to home, and it's people will tune in to be like, oh, what's going on in New York?
Mm-hmm. Right, and it's also wrapped up, and it also, especially in American media, it directly ties into culture war stuff that people have a more vested interest in.
Yeah, I just couldn't give less of a damn about some students protesting. Student protests happen all the time.
Well, it's quite significant. Well, it is quite significant that this level of protests are happening in this many universities, not just in the United States but around the world. I think you can't argue that's not significant.
Yeah, it's less significant than what's actually going on, and like the primary focus on the universities. Like, it feels like it's distracting from the real big boy issues rather than oh look at the poor students, they're being arrested. Like, this is what we're caring about now? I thought we were caring about the people being killed, the actual life or death shit, not just some students being arrested.
Well, I mean, I think it's important that we care, because again, that's about how the, you know, how, like, okay, let's say British or American media is reporting on this. It's about how a conflict that's very far away is having, like, it's about the effect it's having at home. It's about how the effect it's having on our society, about the tensions that it's causing amongst our communities, and you know, that's something that people can relate to a bit more closely. I can understand why it's being reported on. It makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah,
it's about its direct effect on our society. It makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, when you phrase it like that, I guess that's something that people could care about. I
care about it. It's like, you know, I care about the discourse that's going on. Yeah, about, you know, in Western countries about a conflict that I'm personally very interested in. I think it's, I care personally. I can see why people would.
I find it somewhat concerning, though. I think what this issue is highlighted especially is there's a strength of the amount of misinformation that people just accept as fact without doing their own research, especially through mediums like TikTok or Twitter, where people will see something, take it at face value, and not probe it in any way. And I think a lot of these interviews with students, particularly on the pro-Palestinian side, but I think that's just because they get more media attention. I'm sure there's plenty on the other side as well, that, you know, repeat these bizarre talking points that they've been fed from TikTok. They've picked from TikTok about things that might have happened or might not have happened, or historical events that justify or don't justify certain behaviour.
Right. Well, I think this is opening up the can of worms that I think I think that I'm happy to get into, because I've made a lot of points on this about, you know, the points of all of the protests that I agree with, that I don't agree with, and should we go through that, or do you want to?
Well, I'm going to put my position on the table so people understand my view on this conflict, which is that I sympathise with the people living in Gaza in the West Bank who feel that the state of Israel was imposed upon them without their necessary consent, and that it has since began to encroach further upon them without respecting that they were also, you know, they also have an entitlement to this area, and that they also need to, you know, be able to form their own coherent nation. But at the same time, that does not then justify the actions that the Hamas terror group have taken. I think that sort of action is not justified as, oh, they're freedom fighters, that means it's okay.
Yeah, no, it's resistance is justified, or whatever.
No, just no.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, I've
I
got
don't
some.
Think...
Go on.
Yeah, but at the same
finish
time,
what you want to say.
I don't think that, and I'm also sympathetic to the Israeli people. You know, they feel under threat constantly from these neighbors around them, especially Iran. And so I sympathise with their need for a strong sense of being able to defend themselves and so forth. But they have gone, the government of Israel has not behaved in the correct way in responding to what happened in October. They have made it worse for themselves now and for years to come.
They've certainly lost the media war. They've lost you know, the court of public opinion in the West. I definitely think that.
Exactly.
They've made themselves look. a lot worse than they did before. From there, so I've written very detailed points on what I think about, the protests that have been going on, and So I don't know if what we want to do is we can go through point by point, and then you guys can give your thoughts on each one if you agree or disagree, and we can just go through them, and that'll be the last thing we can do on this podcast. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's do that.
Okay, so to start with, I'm a firm believer that it's, in the right to protest. Like, I think, a lot of people say that they support the right to protest and then complain when the protests aren't something that they personally agree with. I don't like that. I don't like a lot of the, say right-wing people that would be like, oh, well, you don't like America, just leave, or you don't like the UK, just leave, or whatever. I don't like that. It's not a good mentality. And I think democracy is not just a political system, it's also a culture. And I think protest is part of democratic culture. And I can even if you don't agree with someone expressing something, it's like, even if you don't support someone's right to say something, even if you don't support what they say, you support their right to say it.
Yeah. A key point of democracy is there's got to be a plurality of views.
Yes.
If everyone thinks the same, that's not a democracy then.
Yeah, there's got to be like public participation and debate amongst ourselves in that.
Yeah.
Have you got any thoughts on
that?
Where
does that end? Because hate speech in all the countries that we're in, I'm not sure on Japanese hate speech laws, but hate speech laws do exist. If someone says something that is classified as hate speech, you can be arrested and be sanctioned by the law for what you've said. So where does free speech end? That's my question.
I think this is one of the biggest issues to arise. Well, it's not specific to this, but it's been highlighted quite well by these protests. The idea of criminalizing hate speech is, in my opinion, pointless. Because one person's hate speech is another person's perfectly acceptable conduct. And there is no clear dividing line of what is hate speech and what is not. It'd be much simpler to just say, if you are inciting violence,
this is what I was about to say.
Somebody else, that's unacceptable. But to say, oh, you can't say that because someone might interpret that as hateful, I think is stupid. Because there's no way that people are ever going to be able to come to a consensus that, oh, that's hate speech and that's not, because people have different opinions of what's acceptable and what isn't.
Yeah, I think if you're spreading, if you're spreading intent to incite violence against someone, that's unacceptable. That's what I think.
Yeah, that is unacceptable.
And I also think that if you're spreading illiberal and anti-democratic viewpoints, as opposed to something, an opinion that can work within the democratic framework, I have less sympathy if, the ideas you're spreading are fundamentally illiberal.
Illiberal, you just said.
Illiberal, I said.
Yeah, because
how were the Nazis able to undermine German democracy? By spreading illiberal ideas in a liberal framework.
I would say
that's another thing.
Yeah. And I would say is that I think one of the things that people for some reason seem to struggle with is that you can criticize. They say, oh, you can't criticize Israel because you get called anti-Semitic. No. You can criticize the state of Israel and the actions of its government. That is a perfectly legitimate complaint to make. To then apply that same criticism to people of Israel or Jewish people across the world, that then is anti-Semitic because you're taking the actions of a state and applying it to the people or...
I think
it's like saying all Russians support the invasion of Ukraine. That's blatantly not true.
Well, yeah, we'll get into... We can get deeper into this with more of the points that I've got.
Yeah. Although, is it
the case. Yeah.
Is it true that the majority of Russians support the invasion of Ukraine because of the information they've been fed by the media?
Well,
boom.
Full
circle.
Yeah, but TD, the
circle.
not free media in Russia though.
Yeah, true. I'm not arguing that they're free, but it's a very interesting, like, we have come full circle.
Right, but the point still stands is that you can't apply the actions of a government to the people and say, oh, well, you must implicitly support this.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's also like, right. Do you know what? I'm gonna keep moving down the points because a lot of these like will relate back to again what I'm gonna say later. So okay. So I think the good thing about some of these protests is that, do you know what, they, you know, I don't we'll get into the nuances, but I don't personally at this point again support this whole war effort. And if the if the protests can signal to the Israeli government that what they're doing has a tremendous human cost, you know, is it going to be worth what they're going to get out of it? Then I think I support it to that extent. But for me, that's kind of almost where it sort of ends. So I'll make some more points, or you can say what you think about that.
I take the view now that what people do in terms of protest in the UK or America is, it's not futile, but the Israelis are not listening and they don't care, quite frankly.
They have a disrespect for like the international community and international law. Like they don't like listening anymore.
Well, as far as they're concerned, this war is both. They need to seem like it's been a success to justify the cost, to both in human terms and what it's cost them on the world stage. But also, it is their political survival at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason Netanyahu and the others are still in power is because this war is ongoing. As soon as that war is concluded, he's gone.
Yes,
you know, there's no coming back for him.
Yeah. And
so whatever people say in the UK, Germany, America, regardless where you are in the world, they're not going to pay attention to you. The only language they speak is America saying, we're not going to give you any more weapons.
Yeah.
And even then, it's not really looking like they're going to pay much attention to that either, because they're still going to do what they want to do, because their own personal self-interest is going to come first.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to keep going down the points.
Welcome to the international relations principle of realism.
So I don't currently support this war, and I kind of understood the initial cause, because again, like Hamas, I think the main thing was, if you attack, you know, if the governing body of a political entity, you know, attacks a country, you know, kills hundreds of its civilians, takes hostages of its own civilians, how can you not expect a military response from that? I think it's ridiculous to say otherwise. How can you not expect a response? You know, and to the degree that they weren't willing to negotiate at the table to get the hostages back, I completely understood the cause for war. You know, and I think this causes just to the degree that Israel minimize civilian casualties as they have. And, you know, I know it's kind of Israeli propaganda, but it's not propaganda so much, but it's like what the Israeli state says. But it's true to the extent that, like, you know, the Hamas militants and the Hamas military targets are completely embedded in the civilian population. There is no way to fight them without civilian casualties. It's impossible. So it's like, so it's like, are they allowed to not have any consequences for attacking just because there's civilians in the way? I don't think you can make that argument. I personally don't agree with that.
And I would agree with you, but I would also say is that, yes, Israel, I think initially was quite good with their selective targeting, but I don't think you could deny that later on.
Well, this is what I was about to get into.
Where they kind of went a bit too a bit too slapdash with we're just gonna somewhere in this block there might be a headquarters, so we're just gonna flatten the whole thing. That's not targeting. Destroying streets is not a targeted strike. That's just flattening the place.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's the issue, I think.
But it is true to the degree that, like, if there is a a military target within a civilian population, it loses its protection. I think that's even the case in international law.
Yes, it is. Yes.
So,
but
then it's more the moral argument, isn't it?
Yeah. But at one point they did say, oh well, we think that every other house on this street has got access to a Hamas tunnel underneath. Okay, but that's an argument for flattening the whole of Gaza at that point. If you reckon every other house has got a tunnel access.
Yeah. No. Exactly. I mean,
they failed to understand the nuance they needed to approach this with. If they had just continued to go with their targeted airstrikes, people would be a lot more sympathetic than they are now. Because people have seen, them go too far, then they can't walk back from it now.
Yeah,
that's their issue. It's even if they stopped all offensive actions tomorrow, it's not going to change public opinion on them anymore.
Yeah, and also the other thing is that people have no confidence in the IDF and what they say because they've been known to lie.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. Is they can't now regain that. It's not like once you rung that bell, you can't unring it.
Right, and because I've got a couple of incidents that are very, very suspicious, to say the least. So there was something that happened in Gaza called the Flower Massacre, and basically it was a bunch of Palestinians trying to get aid, and it was some kind of they surrounded IDF soldiers, so the IDF opened fire and killed loads of people. It's the vast majority of the strikes have been military targets, but there've just been some incidences where it's difficult to justify. Or I don't know if you saw, there was the whole story about the 6-year-old Palestinian girl. I don't know if you guys have heard about this.
No. The only thing that I heard about was there was a food truck that was international aid.
Yeah. This is what
that got bombed.
I think that wasn't the flower. Yeah, but basically there was this 6-year-old girl who was, she was in an area that I think the IDF had said needed to be evacuated. So you can take from that whatever you want. But basically, apparently she was in a car, and that car was. The narrative is there's a signal that the Palestinian Red Crescent released to the public that is a call where she said, "Oh, there's a tank coming after the car," and then after that, the car was blown up, and the girl was killed. And actually, the Palestinian protesters in New York renamed a hall after this girl in Columbia.
But I think,
but the thing is the Israelis said actually the IDF said, "Oh, we didn't have any operatives in that area at the time." But it's very suspicious because then who would have attacked the car? There's no trust in them. They're known to lie, and
because the thing is with these stories is that they try and unsuccessfully make an argument, "Oh, it wasn't us," because they view that as a better outcome than just to say, "This was an awful mistake. We thought this car posed a threat."
But then on the opposite end, a lot of the pro-Palestinian, and Arab media will say, if it's even plausible, it happened.
Yeah,
and that's part of the misinformation spread problem. It's if you saw this with the bombing of Al-Aqsa Hospital, where it was it Al? I can't remember the name of the hospital, but it was the truth is that it was bombed by a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket that misfired, but it was incorrectly reported, I think, by Al Jazeera that it was an Israeli airstrike, and the mainstream media even picked this up for a while, and then it turned out that it wasn't true. And the problem is you get people believing things that they have no substantial evidence for, that you can't even verify.
You can't walk it back. You can't walk it back either. Once you said, "Oh, this was an Israeli missile," oh, actually, now U.S. intelligence says it wasn't. People don't believe that because they think it's a cover-up.
Yeah, because they've already had the initial,
exactly
dopamine hit of that information or whatever.
But the issue is that if the IDF was more transparent, because a lot of these things, especially in an urban environment like this, there is a lot of grey area where people have to make a split-second decision about whether something is a threat or not and what to do. And yes, sometimes they're going to get that call wrong. And I think what happens, though, is instead of the IDF saying, "We got this wrong, this was a terrible mistake," they try and just either lie it away, or try and sweep it under the rug. And both of those things are far more damaging than if they're just honest and said, "Look, this was a terrible mistake."
Right, yeah, no one trusts them. This is the problem.
We thought it was a car bomb and we fired.
Yeah,
because that
this is the issue, is like they have no trust.
You can sympathise with that. If someone's saying, "We got a car coming towards us, we had to make a decision. Do we think it was a risk to our soldiers or not?" That is a position you can justify and you can make an explanation for. Just to say, "Oh, it wasn't us, we weren't there," and you blatantly were, is just stupid. And that's why no one trusts them.
So I'll continue down. Have you got any thoughts, TD?
No, I'm not. The only thing I heard about was the food truck being bombed. I think that. Yeah, but
okay.
As I said, I don't
carry on down the list, and once we're at the end of the list, we can finish off, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, in conclusion, so there was also the ceasefire proposal that Hamas put forward, where it was the return of all hostages for the return of all the hostages for some Palestinian political prisoners or whatever. And I take the view that maybe Israel should have accepted that, because this is my issue with it. The war aim makes no sense, because once they take out Hamas, what's the plan? What are they going to do?
There isn't.
Exactly, there isn't one.
Well, they can't take out Hamas because Hamas is not a group so much as it's a group of people that adhere to a certain set of ideals, and those set of ideals are not going to go away, because if anything, all you've done by behaving in such a way is you've
radicalized them further. Yeah,
exactly. You've made a whole new generation of people that are going to have the same views, if not more extreme.
And right, the fact that they think that they could de-radicalize the Gazan population is laughable. I mean, yeah, they've come out and said, we're not interested in another occupation in Gaza. What's going to happen then? And that's my problem. It's I sort of understood it to the degree it was well, they've got hostages. We need to get the hostages back. I can understand that to a degree, but it's just poorly thought out, I think. And this is why once they get the hostages back, at this point, they should just pull out and, deal with whatever security fuck-up led to October 7th in the first place. And fucking never touch Gaza again, because it doesn't seem like it's going to be a good idea. But I guess it's a sunk cost fallacy now? I don't know.
Dealing with non-state actors, it's very hard to get rid of them. Because if you've got a state actor, you're gone, and you occupy the country. Enough. The state that you did not like has gone. They've capitulated. You've now won that territory, whatever. But getting rid of non-state groups is. I mean, you saw it with ISIS and Al Qaeda. They tried to pull out of Iraq and that area, but then as soon as they did, up springs ISIS, and then you have to ship all the troops back.
They don't operate under the same rules.
Yeah.
So that's part of the problem. It's you're not going to get rid of that idea. I don't see how, again, bombing a bunch of civilians is going to even push anyone closer to peace. I think it's ridiculous assumption.
I think personally, I think the best solution would be. I think the reason Israel couldn't accept that deal was because it was something like for each one Israeli hostage release, Israel had to release like 100 odd Palestinians, and some of these people were the people they jailed for either planning terrorist attacks or they suspected were part of the planning and so forth. So it was like, we're just going to give you back.
Well, you throw them in Gaza and you fucking, surround, you fortify the border. It's like, what loss is it? I don't understand. Like, there's plenty of people in Gaza who, want to see Israel wiped off the map. I don't see how it makes a difference.
But I think the best solution at this point would be to have a imposed regional government that controls Gaza. So it would be
the Saudis, maybe someone like that.
Saudis, Gulf states, and have them, administrate Gaza and try and bring Gaza back towards being in a union with the West Bank.
But again, I don't think after
it's not going to happen.
After what Israel's done to it, I don't see that happening.
No.
But anyway, I'll continue down my points, and my final point is the only way I personally see the conflict ending, and so a lot of protesters. So a lot of the, for example, the encampment in Manchester. One of the demands was the complete academic boycott of Israel. So no. So the protesters supported no cooperation with Israeli universities, and I think that that's ridiculous, personally.
Yeah.
It's just it's the same argument people use with Russia. It's like cancelling of a whole country. It's especially a democratic country with lots of different opinions.
It's the same thing with. I don't personally agree with banning Russia from Eurovision. I understand why it was done, or the Olympics.
Right,
but
exactly.
It has no impact on that state's actual government. All it does is impact the people that live there. And it's the same thing with divesting from Israeli companies or not cooperating with the Israeli universities. They are not the government.
It was the same. It's actually kind of the same with sanctions.
No, excuse me, Russia being banned from Eurovision. I'm surprised that didn't instantly end the Russia-Ukraine war.
No Eurovision, let's pull out, guys.
People were saying,
the fact that
Go on.
The fact that the Aussies have Eurovision and the Russians don't, that's just embarrassing to Russia. Could you imagine?
The Aussies are in Eurovision.
Yeah, the Aussies, they have been since 2015. Where you been?
I've never watched Eurovision in my life. That's where I've been.
Exactly. But people were saying, but people were saying Israel shouldn't be allowed to take part in Eurovision this year, and it's this idea of applying the actions of the state to all of the people that live there, as if they all agree with it and they're all spokespeople of that state whenever they go to do something abroad.
It's the same problem with Russian sanctions. It affects it affects citizens more than it affects the oligarchs or people close to the regime, because they're the ones that take the economic hit compared to the people high up in the regime that are complicit in what's going on in Ukraine.
Definitely. But this argument that we can't cooperate with Israel on anything, well, it doesn't make any sense.
It's like, maybe then they'll overthrow their government, but it's like
they were gonna. The government is on its last legs anyway. As soon as the next election comes around, it's gone.
No, I was talking about Russia. I was talking about Russia.
Oh, Russia.
And I think, I think that's easy to say in a democratic country that you can just overthrow the government. Come on, guys.
Yeah,
treating an entire population like the same way as if they all believe the same thing their government does. Everyone does that to some extent. It's if you're from, let's say, Iran, and you're trying to get a visa to come to, let's say, somewhere, a Western democracy, it's going to be exponentially harder than if you're from not Iran. If you're from a random country, let's go Bulgaria.
Yeah, you're a country because I guess a visa requirements.
That's going to be
right. That's because Iranians pose a higher national security risk than some people from Bulgaria do.
Oh yeah, but
it's more that like because Iranians would have a tendency to. It's not like
that's what I mean. The risk level for people coming from Iran is higher than it is for people from Bulgaria.
And I think
does that mean Iran?
I agree. I think that's unfortunate, but it's kind of like how else do you do it? Do you just let anyone in from a hostile regime? It's like it's a tough one. I don't.
Yeah. It's a very difficult balance to strike, but it's not uncommon to treat the citizens of a country like as a whole, despite the fact that there are a lot of varying opinions and whatever in that country. I'm not saying it's right. I'm actually saying that it is wrong, but I don't know what the best solution is.
Well, it's not wrong because at the end of the day, they're not said they can't come here.
If we said, we can't they've come just put in more barriers.
I mean, yeah, but those barriers will inevitably limit the people who can come there because they all either require money or time or like abilities that quite a few people don't have, but if they had the lower visa requirements, that they would be able to. So those barriers will inevitably affect people who they shouldn't or who don't deserve them being blocked out.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but in the context of what we're discussing, that doesn't mean you can't do business with Iran, or Iran can't participate in international competitions, which is what people are arguing for with Israel.
With Israel, yeah.
I mean, you can't do business with Iran. They've got quite severe sanctions on them.
Well, let's keep. That's because. Should we keep this on topic more?
Sorry. I'm bringing this. Sidelined.
That's fine. I'm just thinking we're again nearly pushing 2 hours on this, and I think I'll edit down some of it, but let's keep the ball rolling. I'm going to keep going down my points. Okay. So another thing that people in the protest have said, and this is quite and Chris, this relates actually to one of the points that you put in the other doc, is the advocating for no cooperation with the Israeli military or for universities with companies that sell weapons to Israel, like BAE Systems or whatever. So I mean, I think this is silly because it's as if yes, the whole Israeli military industrial complex is just used to slaughter Palestinians, which is I think the argument that a lot of these people are making. And like what, Israel shouldn't have a military that it can use to defend its citizens in a region of the world that's very dangerous. And I think no one treats other countries like this. People that disagree with the US going into Iraq, that didn't say yes, we should divest from selling weapons to the United States because they're doing bad things in Iraq or whatever. I don't buy that argument. I just think it's silly.
I mean, fuck Lockheed Martin, war profiteering dickheads.
Lockheed.
Whatever.
Lockheed Martin.
And especially given the point that you made about how much the UK actually gives to Israel, it's quite.
Right. Well, no, but this is the thing. The UK does not give anything to Israel. The UK government does not sell arms to Israel. All they do is they license private companies to be allowed to export arms to Israel. And of that, the UK exports 0.02% of Israel's total armament.
It's ridiculous. It's parody.
And most of those will not be weapons that are being used in Gaza. Most of the weapons used in Gaza will be American or Israeli-owned made.
Mm-hmm. So I think again, there's like more of an argument there, and I think in the US,
and we're seeing the argument being made by Sleepy Joe. He said, "I'm not going to give you the bombs and stuff that you're using in Gaza. We'll keep sending you the missiles that you use for the Iron Dome.
Mm-hmm.
We'll supply you the defensive weapon that you need."
Right? Is this all or nothing mentality? It's this very.
That's the issue.
That's the problem.
Is the issue,
right?
I think that really comes ahead with this is that things now are very binary, where this level of nuance, which is actually required to actually get anywhere, is not allowed in public discourse. Either you are pro-Palestine and you are completely against the state of Israel existing.
Yeah, you're pro-Palestine, river to the sea, destroy the state of Israel.
Exactly. Or you're the complete opposite, and you think that the Palestinian people don't have any right to exist, and that
or you're pro-Zionist, and there are no innocent civilians. All of that. I completely agree. And I think the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Most people fall in the middle, which they think this whole thing is awful. The two sides never got along, and this is not going to lead to a solution. And it's awful for people that live in Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
That's what most people
absolutely
think.
Yeah.
Most people don't think on these two levels of binary. It's either this or that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just it's not a position that people seem to take for the loudest people seem to allow people to take.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of it was, there was initially like a far more like open spectrum of opinions, but when the people who were presenting, like the people who had opinions in the middle, them expressing that did nothing, and they're obviously quite hurt and quite whatever, and their opinions did not matter. So the next logical step becomes to take a more extreme opinion, because if you're
the problem is
if you're not being listened to, you just keep on taking more extreme opinions.
I think the only way though is that any progress has been made is when both sides go to the negotiation table. Is the problem though? I don't think that's been proven to work.
I like thinking of like the US and the protests and like the global protests. Like people are saying injustice, and they're upset by it, and they want change, and then like their initial protests where they were calling for a more middle change were.
But I don't think they ever were. That's the problem. Is I don't think that this idea that the middle ground was the loudest voice is never the case.
No, it's the people who are like anti the state of Israel, or the people that think that Israel can do whatever they like. It's those two sides are the loudest.
I mean, I think.
Can I keep on with my points, or have you got more?
Yeah, I don't know. And like part of it is also the polarization that is very much propagating a lot.
But I think, but the problem is the extreme polarization isn't what's gonna, hasn't been what's proven to bring the end to the conflict, and that's the problem. Is these extreme positions perpetuate it on both sides.
Mm.
Let me carry on with my points. So another thing is the whole apartheid, right? So I take the view Israel's not an apartheid state because, they have a 20% Arab population. Like 20% of the population of the state of Israel itself is made up of Arabs, and they have full rights, and they're even I think there's even Arab parties in the Knesset as well.
Yep, there are.
And like that's just a complete lack of research. You just don't know what you're talking about when you say that.
Well, it's this misuse of the word.
Yeah.
Israel is discriminatory towards people that live in the West Bank and Gaza. Yes.
Well, I was going to get onto this, but anyway.
That does not make it an apartheid. An apartheid is when you have it against people within your own country. Arab people that live within Israel have the same rights as everybody else.
I think we've just jumped on this rhetorical treadmill where a bad thing has to be the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
As opposed to just being a bad thing.
Like, I mean, it's polarization again.
But
this is nothing more but more polarization, no?
No, I'll carry on. However, I do think the situation in the West Bank, you could consider that apartheid, I think. Because, because you've got the settlers, and I think the settlements in the West Bank need to stop. I think it's disgusting that that's still going on, and it's I think when people take the narrative of, Israel is the one that negotiates, the Palestinians don't. The settlements being something that's pretty inflammatory to a lot of the, conventions that the international community have set.
They're illegal.
They're illegal, yeah, exactly. So,
and I think
Israel don't behave entirely within the law. It's not the case.
No, and it's a massive failing of the West, especially America, to rein them in and get them to cut it out.
Yeah, because they think, because the Palestinians won't negotiate, we can do whatever we want.
And it's not acceptable, and the way that they behave is unacceptable.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't think apartheid is the right label for it, but I do think they are, at the very least, racist in the way that they treat the Palestinians.
But in the West Bank, though, you have these, in the settlements, the Israeli law is applied, and in the Palestinian areas, you've got military law, and where the Palestinians have no political rights. You could call that apartheid. It's not it's not like South Africa. It's not like South Africa. It's not done because of race, and it's for the Israelis stay in the West Bank for security concerns. I understand that, because if they leave, again, who knows what would happen? But it's still
they shouldn't be there.
Yeah, they shouldn't be there. That's the problem. Yeah.
And this is the issue: is that they keep digging these holes for themselves.
But the apartheid
generational holes.
But the thing is, the apartheid ends when an agreement is reached.
Yeah,
but the problem is there's no one wanting to do an agreement.
Exactly, and that's why I think that this issue is only going to get solved at this point by an international decision basically being forced upon them, because these two sides had an opportunity to come to an agreement in the 2000s, and they threw it away.
But I'm a bit skeptical whether Arafat even wanted that. I wonder if he just wanted to use a one state to attack the rest of Israel, and he called the second intifada after the negotiations broke down. I think he was a complete liar. It's possible
in terms of the in terms of the willingness to have the dialogue was there.
It was the closest they came. It was the Camp David was the closest they came.
Exactly. That dialogue does not exist now, and it will not exist for a good long time unless something is basically imposed upon them and they get told, right, this is the solution, and we're going to use X, UN peacekeepers.
Again, I think there's another
enforce the solution, which isn't really a solution because it needs to be done by consent. The whole issue of this arises from the fact that that Israel was created without the consent of the local people.
Mm-hmm.
Both sides have an equally valid claim to that area. And the solution that they came to was not a perfect solution, and now we're seeing the issues from that.
Well, yeah, I think discussing all the 48 war is kind of I want to keep.
Well, it's pointless because you just go back as far as you want, and you can make an argument from that point forward. You can say, 3,000 years ago.
No one treats borders like this in the modern day. Look at how much the European borders have changed. You don't see Germany thinking, oh yeah, we need to take that bit of Poland that the Soviets incorporated into Poland, because it would just cause conflict.
I think you get some Hungarians who
no one takes them fucking seriously. No one takes them fucking seriously, though. Throughout history, you get conquered and you have to negotiate with your conqueror. We don't do that anymore. We've kind of accepted that borders should be borders now. And that's just kind of the way things are. It's why people laugh at, again, Greek politicians that want to take back Constantinople. We were talking about this before. It's why people don't think that, all the non-native Americans should leave. It's because we just kind of accepted that the borders in the modern day are what they are. But suddenly with Israel, we don't treat it like that anymore. I don't understand that. So, again, I'm going to my last few points, and then we'll wrap up. Is that all right?
Yeah, I will. Let me know when you're at your last one. I will prepare the outro for the cast.
Okay. So the other thing is a lot of the a lot of the protesters advocate again for the destruction of the state of Israel. But this isn't what the Palestinians advocate for. But what a lot of the Western college, university protesters advocate for is like a one state with equal rights, as opposed to a two-state solution where there's like partition or division or anything like that.
Or they don't even advocate for that. They just advocate for the Jews being moved again.
Well,
they argue that it shouldn't be a Jewish state.
Well, that's what I don't think most. I don't think most.
No, there are extreme views. That's for sure.
I think a lot of the, again, a lot of the white college kids, that's what they think should happen. A one-state solution with equal rights. And problem is, it's not going to work, is it? It's just like
not going to work.
Like, do you really think like two people that have spent all this time fighting each other are even like it's even possible for them to live together?
I just find
it has to be two states. It's not going to happen.
Well, I mean, it has some historical precedent. Like
not
the
as
French
severe as this. Not as diametrically opposed as this. Living under one country.
Alsace-Lorraine,
right, but Alsace-Lorraine the people of Alsace-Lorraine never believed that the French state shouldn't exist, and that they should the people of France should be wiped off the earth.
Exactly.
And people are arguing, oh well, those people should also live in the same country as the other people then.
It's pretty damn fundamental.
How is that ever going to work?
It's just not.
How's that ever going to work?
And people use the example of Northern Ireland. Like Northern Ireland, again, these people are very much more culturally similar. Well, they're the same people essentially, to where dialogue between them, despite the differences, was a lot easier to have happen.
But the difference with Northern Ireland is that it was not a hatred between the two sides on a level of I don't think you have any right to exist on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I will continue to fight until you do not exist on this earth. That was never really a position taken by the IRA.
Right, it's a completely different thing. And with South Africa, Mandela, he was a once in a generation leader who promoted reconciliation and forgiveness between the groups, and the Palestinians don't have anything like that.
Yeah. But what I would say as well,
do you think if they did, life would be different?
Well, this is my final point, but let's. Can we keep going?
I've got one thing to say.
Go on.
Which is, I don't know if you're going to bring this up. Why is it that so many people on they call them, it's progressives, but it's not really progressives. It's more just sort of more left than centre, seem to be able to just ignore reality because they support this Palestinian cause? Because why is there a group of Queer to Palestine?
Because
I don't understand how you can.
I think people view it through the oppressor-oppressed narrative.
Right, but they're ignoring the reality, which is that yes, Queer to Palestine. Okay, go and these people will, especially in Gaza, homosexuality is the death sentence. And yet you're advocating for their right to be able to enforce their way of life on other people. I don't understand it.
I saw a meme. It was like, the Western protesters don't want to talk about why LGBT Palestinians seek asylum in Israel.
In Israel, exactly. So it's like, well, I don't understand how those two things don't make sense together.
This is the thing. It's horrendously entangled.
It's horrendously entangled, but also it's just become this issue has gone from being one of, oh, I understand this reason deeply, and that's why I sympathise with the cause I side with, to just, oh, well, I immediately support the Palestinian cause because I'm a leftist person.
Because people view it through an oppressor-oppressed narrative, and I think that's...
It's just become... I think the issue is it's just, especially in leftist groups, it's just become trendy. It's trendy to be pro-Palestine now, as opposed to actually understanding the reasons why. Just, oh, I'm pro-Palestine because I vote left.
I think it's more that people think, oh, this is an oppressed people and they deserve to not be oppressed. And then, again, but not think about what conditions led them to this point. What leadership did they have to lead them to where they're at now? There's a lot more history to absorb and a lot of things that have happened. Can I move on?
Yep.
Another really funny thing is like when people use, and also the problem is that most people use anti-Zionist Jews as like a like a fucking what's the word, like smoking gun, where it's like, yes, there are these anti-Zionist Jews that exist. Like we're not anti-Semitic, we're anti-Zionist. But the problem is though, you're still, if you poll most Jews in Western countries, the vast majority of them will support the state of Israel and like support its existence. It's like, I think some of these protesters genuinely think that most Jews in Western countries oppose the state of Israel, but it couldn't be further from the truth.
But also there seems to be this weird thing where, you're Jewish, therefore you must love everything that Israel does.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's on both sides. I agree. It's a thing on both sides.
And why is there this inability to understand that people have their own opinions?
Yeah.
If you have their own opinions, you can't just apply, you're Jewish, therefore you must love what Israel's doing. That is anti-Semitic because you're applying someone's race to then their views. It's like saying, if you're black, you must vote Democrat. Different.
Right. And I can agree with that to an extent.
Thanks, Sleepy Joe. It's another one of his gems.
Here's what I think. So here's pretty much the last point.
The fifth last point.
Yeah, this is the real last point.
Yeah.
Here's the only way I see the conflict ends, and I don't think it's very likely, but this is my view. Here's how I see it ending. The Palestinians, get a leader. They get a leader that is, honest, willing to promote reconciliation, but also, give them what they want, and give them a fair deal. And I think if you saw that the Palestinians chill, they don't do any like terrorism or anything like that, and they have they're going to the negotiation table again. The international pressure on Israel would be huge. There's no way that the US would let them get away with, not... because the fact is the current status quo benefits Israel, really, if you think about it. I mean, they have to lose... they have to keep fighting in wars, but, they can get more than if the Palestinians have a state, currently. I mean, so to me, the only way that happens is... you get someone to negotiate a Palestinian state with the Gaza, all of the West Bank, and I think, the Israeli settlers in the West Bank, they either accept Palestinian rule or they leave. Yeah. And because the Palestinians had to deal with transfer when the state of Israel was made, why can't the Israelis? That's what I think. And do you know what? And split Jerusalem in half and make it... And I know this is something that is going to be very contentious with Israel, but do you know what? Split Jerusalem in half, give the Palestinians east, and give Israel west. That's the only way I see it resolving.
Who gets the centre with the dome on the rock?
Should be an international zone.
That's what I was going to say. It has to be an international zone.
It would have to be an international zone. All the holy sites, I think, should be international.
Yeah.
That's the only way. But coming from the Palestinians, I don't think that's very likely. But to be fair, it did come from Egypt. You had, so this is the thing. Throughout Israel's history, its surrounding Arab states were hostile to it. And now the Arab states are mostly aligned with Israel against Iran, with a few exceptions. But, and I think Egypt's role is very interesting because, Egypt was Israel's most powerful enemy. And they fought a bunch of wars with them until, there was the Yom Kippur War with Sadat, who was the leader of Egypt at that time. And Sadat lost the Sinai Peninsula in that war. So eventually he was like, do you know what? Let's make peace. Let's, it's not worth it anymore. I'm not interested in some, idealistic idea of Arab unity and peace, and all the other Arabs condemned him for this, but he did an independent peace with Israel. Israel gave him the Sinai back, and now there's peace between Egypt and Israel to this day. And I actually wanted to end this with a quote from Sadat, if you don't mind. Peace is much more important than a piece of land. Let there be no wars. And I think it's very apt. I think that this obsession with all of the land, or who owns what, is only bringing us further into destruction. That's it.
I wish, part of me wishes I had idealistic thing, but I think presently what we're saying a lot internationally is the breakdown of the rules-based order, what with Russia and China being slightly malicious. Is it too late to reverse this trend? No, but I think it's a kind of wait and see type thing.
I think it needs to be stood against. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think this is another wait and see type thing, because
so if anyone
international
go on, carry on.
International pressure might be able to do stuff, but if the rules-based order continues to deteriorate, what's stopping any state from just doing what it wants, moving back into an age of realism with every state acting in its own best interest, or its own perceived best interest, should I say.
If anyone's got anything else to say, if anyone hasn't got anything else to say, I guess we can go to your outro, TD.
Yeah, Clark?
No.
Okay. Well, on that somber note, we shall end this episode of the Hen and Friends podcast. We have. I have been TD. Ben has been Ben. Chris has been Clark.
No. I'm Hen. That's Clark.
Stop confusing the listeners with your treachery.
Yeah. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of our podcast. I believe it is number 4. Feel free to edit this out if I'm wrong, or leave it in if I'm wrong. Make me look stupid.
I've got a final sentence before I stop recording.
Excuse me. I need to do the outro. Say your sentence, and then I'll do the outro.
Poo for peace.
And with that, we say good night.
Good night.